Flight attendant kicks black boy off plane. 7 minutes later, he owns the airline. When a flight attendant kicked 12-year-old Jamal off the plane, she thought she was just flexing her authority. 7 minutes later, the captain got a phone call that changed everything. The boy she humiliated wasn't just a passenger. He was about to become her boss. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop a comment below. Jamal Al-Farouk sat quietly in seat 12A, clutching his tablet, excited for his first solo flight from New York to Dubai. His father, an influential business magnate and owner of the largest construction firm in Dubai, had sent him to explore the world beyond luxury. "Understand, people," his father had said. "Humility makes a true leader." Little did he know, that lesson would begin sooner than expected. As Jamal adjusted his seatbelt, a flight attendant named Rebecca approached, her expression tight. "You're in the wrong seat," she said, her tone sharper than it needed to be. "I'm supposed to be here," Jamal replied softly, showing his ticket. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "Don't talk back to me. Move, or I'll have you removed." Passengers around them shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. Jamal, confused but not wanting trouble, stood up. "But this is my—" "Enough!" she snapped, grabbing his arm. "You need to leave! Now!" Tears welled in Jamal's eyes as he was escorted off the plane, humiliated and bewildered. His phone buzzed as he stepped onto the jet bridge, his father's private number. "Papa!" Jamal's voice quivered, explaining what had happened. Back on the plane, passengers whispered. Some filmed. Rebecca returned, smug and satisfied, unaware of the fire she had just ignited. 7 minutes later, as the plane prepared for takeoff, the intercom crackled. "This is your captain speaking. We are experiencing an unexpected delay. Please remain seated." Rebecca's smirk faded when the captain emerged from the cockpit, phone in hand, his face pale. "Miss Rebecca," he said, voice tight, "please step off the plane." "Excuse me?" she stammered. "You're being replaced," he replied, barely containing his anger. "Immediately." The murmurs grew louder. Rebecca, flustered and confused, was escorted off, her eyes darting around for an explanation. She saw Jamal standing on the jet bridge, his expression calm, his father's imposing figure beside him. The captain approached, bowing slightly. "Mr. Al-Farouk, we deeply apologize for this unfortunate incident." Jamal's father glanced at his watch. "My legal team will handle the rest. For now, ensure my son is comfortable." Rebecca's mouth went dry. You can't do this." Jamal's father met her eyes, cold and unwavering. "I already have." As the plane departed, now with Jamal comfortably seated in first class, Rebecca stood in the terminal, realizing the weight of her mistake. She had judged a boy by his skin, his quiet demeanor, never imagining he held more power than she ever would. By the time the plane landed in Dubai, news had spread across the airline. Jamal Al-Farouk's family had just finalized a deal to acquire a controlling stake in the company. The boy she had kicked off the plane now effectively owned it. And Rebecca? She learned the hard way that arrogance and prejudice could cost far more than a job. They could cost everything. The incident had gone viral, with headlines blazing across international news platforms. Flight attendant humiliates young passenger, but he's the new airline owner's son. Social media exploded, people rallying behind Jamal and condemning Rebecca's behavior. In Dubai, Jamal stepped off the plane to a welcoming committee of airline executives and his father's team. As they descended the jet bridge, his father placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "This is your moment to show leadership, Jamal. How you handle this will set the tone for your future." At the airline's headquarters in downtown Dubai, a press conference had been arranged. Jamal, dressed in a sharp-tailored suit, stood at the podium. Cameras flashed, and the room buzzed with anticipation. He spoke calmly, his voice steady. "What happened to me was unfair. No one deserves to be treated differently because of how they look or where they come from." He paused, meeting the gaze of the reporters. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to set a new standard, one of respect, dignity, and accountability." The executives shifted uncomfortably. They had seen the viral backlash. They knew changes had to be made. Jamal continued, Under our family's leadership, this airline will introduce mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for all employees. Everyone deserves a chance to be treated with respect." The room erupted in applause. Jamal's calm poise at such a young age impressed even the most skeptical reporters. But there was one person who wasn't applauding: Rebecca. She had been summoned to the press conference, now sitting in the back, wearing a look of dread and disbelief. After the conference, Jamal's father invited her into a private room. The walls, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, offered a sweeping view of the Dubai skyline. The golden sunset cast long shadows, mirroring the weight in the room. Rebecca sat nervously across from Jamal and his father. I didn't know who he was," she muttered, her voice barely audible. Jamal's father raised an eyebrow. "Would it have mattered if you had?" She fell silent. "Rebecca," Jamal said gently, "I don't want to ruin your life, but you need to understand the impact of your actions." Tears welled in her eyes. I've made mistakes." Jamal's father spoke firmly. "Mistakes are lessons only if you learn from them. You're being given a choice. You can resign or you can stay, under one condition." Rebecca looked up, confused but hopeful. "What's the condition?" Jamal leaned forward. "You will lead the new diversity and inclusion training program. Teach others what you've learned. Change starts with you." She blinked in shock. "Me?" Jamal nodded. "Who better to understand the damage prejudice causes than someone who lived it?" A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, Rebecca whispered, "Thank you. I won't waste this chance." As she left, Jamal's father turned to him, pride in his eyes. "You turned a painful experience into progress, Jamal. That's true leadership." Jamal looked out at the Dubai skyline, a sense of peace washing over him. The journey wasn't over, but he had already made an impact. And somewhere, on a flight yet to take off, a passenger who looked like him would be treated differently, fairly, because one boy had stood his ground and changed the game. If you enjoyed this story, it doesn't cost you anything and you'll make me very happy. Thank you, and I look forward to your like.